here, and Sandy Heiar and I will joke every now and again that Matt will at the very last minute just change course, which we're used to. That's what we do, being in broadcast and being in radio and daily Dodge TV stuff. So it's wonderful to have you guys here with us today, and I think it's really cool because you're husband and wife.
Yes, I get the best of both worlds. I get to see you twice in the same week,
Oh.
and I get to be on with my wife. It's a great
so
day,
nice.
and I get to see Ninja twice.
And the power
You can't see
team.
him, but I can see him.
Or at least part of Ninja. Yeah, we're streaming live on Daily Dodge TV. So how this is set up, where everyone gets to see us on the live stream. Ninja, of course, behind the big screen and the camera, so we only get to see about half of him. So, yeah. Here we are, Senior Solutions with Mr. and Mrs. Caston. Can I call you Craig and Carrie or Mr. and Mrs. Caston?
That'd be the first time you'd ever called me Mister.
Oh, my goodness. And usually when we have you on the air with us, Craig, it is for something, regarding Dodge County Center for the Arts. And I know it's going to be a big day tomorrow in downtown Beaver Dam.
You bet.
So you have a lot happening at Dodge County Center for the Arts, and always appreciate your time. But with all that going on, and for you to be here on Senior Solutions, extra note of thanks to you.
Yeah, thanks. It's great. We're excited about all the things we're doing tomorrow and having that. But I wanted to help out Matt because he was in a bind. So I was like, oh, I could talk. He's wanted me to have me on for months and months. He's talked about, one of these days I'm going to have you come on and talk about computers and security and things like that. But then he just said, well, you could do it. You could do it Friday.
Today's the day.
Today's the day. Yeah. Tomorrow's the day. Okay, I will do that tomorrow.
And Carrie, you've been a part of the Heiar insurance team for the past 5 years now. And so interested to know how you came to join the team and what you were doing before you got that call from Sandy Heiar about, hey, you need to come be a part of our team.
Well, I used to work at the hospital for 20 years doing authorizations and insurance. So when I decided to retire from the hospital, Sandy called me and said, you need to come work for me, because it was like I knew everything about insurance and authorizations, Medicare supplements, etc.
Oh, my goodness. It's so much to know, too, Carrie.
Yes, and it's great fun working at Heiar's because just helping people with retirement, the different steps of doing retirement. Matt and Sandy can help with the investments, with the insurance piece of the puzzle, the Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, whatever people need. And then also people that decide to retire under 65 is a biggie nowadays, especially. People retire from 55 on nowadays. So we also have the Affordable Care Act, which people can have for insurance if they're under 65. So Matt and Sandy can help with all of that stuff. And it's fun watching people coming out of their offices and just that sigh of relief, like, oh, we can do this.
My sister was one of those. My sister would not retire, and I kept telling her, you've had 35 or 40 years in at the county. You can retire. I can't. Then she met with Carrie and then obviously with Matt because that's his job. And then she came out and she goes, actually, I make more money retired than I can working. And I'm
Oh,
like,
my goodness.
there you go. To tell her that for years, you should do that. She had a hard job, so her knees and her hips and all that stuff. So,
Sure.
And I asked her about a week after she retired, how's retirement? She goes, I'd never go back.
Oh, my goodness.
She said, it's the best thing I've ever done. My knees have cleared up, my hips have cleared up, my disposition on the world is better.
Total game changer.
Yeah. Matt did a great job of figuring it out for her to know, what she had to do. So I was very impressed by that.
Well, congratulations to your sister on her retirement. And I know that one of the many things Matt enjoys about what he does is being able to help people accomplish their dreams and what they are looking forward to in retirement. And in the case of your sister, who really didn't think she would be ready, wow, when you get everything in place and they talk about those big screens, Carrie, how, they'll bring up all these different scenarios and really walk people through those first steps. And that it begins, of course, with that conversation about how people want to retire, what they're hoping to do in retirement, what they're looking forward to, and then that educational component, figuring out what you have to work with.
Yes, and people come in and they have like an initial meeting. Lots of times it's not to get anything settled right away. It's just to find everything out. And a lot of people do that 2, 3, 4 months, and sometimes a year before they're thinking about retiring, to find out the answers of how it would all work.
Yeah.
Because a lot of companies, the same thing. If you work for a company and you retire, they may not handle your investments anymore. They may handle them at a higher price of taking care of your investments. So those are things that people don't realize, and those are things that Matt and Sandy can help with. Like, okay, we can switch over your investments, and we can take care of that. And then, of course, like I said, the big part, the insurance part. Everybody needs the health insurance, and so.
Carrie Caston with your Heiar Insurance team with us here today for Senior Solutions, along with her better half, literally, Craig Caston joining us as well here today as part of your Heiar Insurance team for Senior Solutions. And Craig, when you talked about Matt, talking with you off and on for really the past few months about having you on Senior Solutions, he really has wanted to have you on to talk about cybersecurity and people knowing what they need to know about keeping themselves and their personal info safe online. And you're really an expert when it comes to that. For folks who don't know your history, share a little bit about your background.
Well, I started in computers in 1981 with my working for the Daily Citizen as a computer programmer, and I've done all that. And then I moved into, I started writing, believe it or not, I started writing resumes on my old Macintosh computer with my son laying across my lap. And somebody said, "Well, do you know how to fix computers?" "No, not really." "Well, let's try it." So we tried, and suddenly I was fixing computers. And then the Citizen actually got Apple computers, which was the actual old Apples. The Apple IIs. It was awesome, and then it was awesome and then I moved to Mac, and then Mac had I became the PC coordinator, so I had control of all the PCs, and we didn't do Mac. They wouldn't do Macs. I couldn't let them. They wouldn't let me.
That was a real thing back in the day, like Mac versus PCs.
Oh, it still is.
Yeah,
it still is. I still have people that say, my son-in-law is one of those that says, "You use a Mac? That's crazy." And I'm like, "No, it's great. I mean, it's better." And then over the years, then I decided. We started the internet business. For those that don't remember, because it's a long time ago, but it was PowerWeb. I founded PowerWeb, and we ran that for about a dozen years. And then after that, I said, I'm going to retire. Well, that's how that worked. I ended up doing computer work and doing, when I was running all over town. In fact, I got 2 appointments this afternoon, and then I retired. I retired again 2 years ago. And every time I go down to one of my clients, the guy from behind the counter of the company goes, "How's retirement coming?" Yeah, we'll talk about that some other time. But it's one of those things where it's easy. It's for me because I don't have a business, I don't have a building enough. It's easy for me just to say, "Oh, I'll come over and stop by this afternoon and fix you." So I've done everything. I've been I've written magazine articles. I've written papers. I've programmed hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lines of code. I do web design. I do pretty much. If it has a computer in it, I want to do that. My brain is agitated. It always wants to learn something new. So every time I see something, I'm like, I should know about that. That's an important thing to know, even if I don't have any idea what it's for. It just sounded cool.
Oh, I love that. Craig Caston and Carrie Caston joining us today for Senior Solutions, part of your Heiar Insurance team. Want to make sure folks know that the phones are open at 885-4446, 885-4446 for your questions. And you can also text us on the text line at 887-9595, 887-9595. Carrie, before we hit the air live, you had said, "Oh, I've never done this before." You're doing great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You make it so easy.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, I always tell him, you need to do this. You need to, and I'll text him when he's on the radio and stuff.
That's true.
But Matt was real big on wanting people to know about the security of things. And we do at Heiar's get calls from all kinds of people, asking, "Well, I got a call from Medicare, or I got a call from this. Should I be doing this?" And we try and help them through all of it. But these are some of the things that Craig can kind of answer for some of the people.
Well, yeah, because we do ongoing monthly cyber training here, company-wide for Good Karma Brands. There's always, different assignments to complete, little videos to watch. And what I've noticed in some of the things recently is that they're getting really good, really crafty at tricking people.
Gosh.
And
yeah.
it's become really helpful. And I have to share this with you since, we'll be talking about some of the stuff. So one of the basic things, that we need to look for is just that address from where that email is coming from, and then the signature. And so I received something, I believe it was on Wednesday. It was an email. I did not recognize the address, and it was about my daughter misbehaving in advanced algebra and being sent to the principal's office. So I clicked my fish alert button. I'm like, this is a scam. Yeah. Well, it turned out that one wasn't a scam. It was a substitute teacher who thought he was being funny. But I've become so mindful just of those basic things to look for, because if you don't look for some of those basic things, you can really cause a lot of issues for not only your own computer. I like to refer to them as a rig. I've got my own rig,
sure.
But also company-wide if you're connected to other people in your company.
Yeah, and it becomes really bad, and that's always and they're becoming way more sophisticated than that. There's actually, I read into some new things. We could talk about that later.
Yeah.
But I always ask the question. When I used to teach a lot at Marine Park, and one of the classes I'd say, does anyone know what the weakest link in computer security is? Do you know what the weakest link is? Ninja knows.
Carrie, do you know?
Exactly.
Can you give us a hint? Can you give us a hint?
Ninjas know.
That's why Ninja
just answered the question.
He does everything.
He just answered the question.
Are we our own weakest link?
You betcha.
Okay.
The humans are the weakest link in the cybersecurity. No matter how hard you make it, no matter how difficult you make it, your human connection is the worst. The connection, because people are trusting, people are, they're not cautious enough. Because one of the things you talked about was an email that you didn't do. Well, a couple of the new scams that are coming out is people are registering domain names that are similar. So like if yours is Good Karma Brands, they might register a domain name that's Good Karma Brams with an MDS. So your brain just goes, oh, it's Good Karma Brands. It always is.
You're busy, you're moving along, and
you hit it, and you go, oh wait, now something bad happened, and there's no way to stop that, because if people call me and tell me about it, I'll report them into the internet that I can, but that happens, and that's happened to a couple companies here in Beaver Dam where their suppliers got an email saying, hey, you need to change all your routing information on your computer, on your banking, and they did. And then they sent it to me and said, what happened? I said, well, it's because they registered a name that had instead of an R, it had an M or something like that, or N and it was an M. I said, it's not your domain name. Well, how do we stop it? You can't. You got to be vigilant. Vigilant. Sorry, let's try to took both words together. Diligent and vigilant, and got something really weird. Diligent. You have to be very diligent and vigilant on checking and verifying. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So it's bad, and you have to check those things out. So it's very, 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 very difficult. And the other thing I always talk about to people is, because when you're talking about the weakest link, I'd say when I was teaching class, I'd say, how many here have answered the question with what's your mother's maiden name? And almost everybody raises their hand. Yeah. And I said, so if I Google your name, if your mother's passed away or your grandmother's passed away, it'll be on the internet, and therefore I know your mother's maiden name. And they all went, really? Yeah. So I did a couple examples. I asked somebody what their name was, and I looked them up, and I said, see, now I know your mother's maiden name. And so you can see that a lot of companies aren't asking that anymore. They're asking other questions like, what's your first dog's name, or what's your second cousin's on your mother's side name, or just something. They ask something that's really obscure that you probably can't find on the internet. Although you could, like your dog's name, you could find that on Facebook. So those are the things, but the problem that a lot of people have, especially the older seniors and boomers and things like that, is you're trusting that you were raised to answer the phone politely because it was before caller ID, before cell phones. You be polite because you never knew who's on the other end. And off the air, I'll tell you a funny story about my father with that. We get banned from the radio if I told you told you the story on the radio. But it was a great story because it's exactly illustrates that problem. Is you were taught to be polite, so you answer the phone and you go, okay, you see the phone ring and you look at it and you go, I don't know that number, but I should be polite and answer it. No, you shouldn't. The answer is no. If you don't know who it is, don't answer. They'll leave a voicemail if it's somebody important. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is you get these people that call and then they convince you because they're very convincing and they get you to do that. And the philosophy, and Carrie had said that on the way here, we were talking about that Medicare doesn't call. And I always tell people, Microsoft doesn't call, Google doesn't call, Amazon doesn't call. Nobody calls you because The only one, and even the IRS won't call you. The IRS will send you a letter, but if they send you a letter, it's kind of late. you're kind of late,
And you're probably kind of
they'll show up,
at
and if
that
they show up at
point.
your door, then you're really in trouble. But no one ever calls you. I always tell people, think of it like a beach. There's hundreds of millions of Windows computers out there, and people using computers. 100 million people using computers. Well, suddenly. So you're walking on a beach and those hundreds of millions are the sand. Well, suddenly somehow Microsoft is going to decide, or Google or whatever, is going to pick up that one grain of sand on the thing and say, this person isn't acting right. I better call them. What's the reality of that? Never, because how would they, they could never ever go through all of that sand. And in fact, I had a customer that called me one time and he said, I'm on the phone with Google. I said, no, you're not. And he goes, yes, I am. He said he's from Google. Okay, I'm from Kentucky Fried Chicken. And he goes, you're not. I said, no, neither is the guy from Google. So I said, so he goes, oh, he said, I said, tell the guy he'll call back. And you could hear the guy on the other end scream, you're going to regret this. And he slammed the phone down. And guess what? His computer was totally locked out. I was like, he wasn't from Google, because Google will never call you. Google doesn't care about you. You're just a digit, a 0.00001 on the end of some spreadsheet, and 100 people, 1,000 people means nothing to Google. It's when it's big things like that. So I ended up having to repair his whole computer because they locked him out. They called my dad one time, and who I've always, my dad's passed away, but we had all of this computer. I did all his computers. I did everything since the very first computer he's ever had. I've built it for him, maintained it, updated it when it needs. And when he calls me, he goes, some guy from Microsoft is on the phone and he's messing with my computer because he said I got a virus. I'm like, oh, no. Who's ever fixed your computer? You or me? And he goes, you. And I'm like, then why would you, he said, then I knew it was fishy when he asked me for a credit card.
Oh,
I was like,
no.
Yeah, you should have did that a long time ago. Should have stopped that a long time ago. But so those are the things that you have to remember. You're taught to be polite, but no. And if it's somebody, if you really feel you have to answer it, I caution you not to. But if you do, and they start out with either it's someone you can't understand, or it's because it's technically an overseas call, or it's something that they want to start asking you about money or personal stuff, hang up. Just immediately hang up. Just you don't have to be polite anymore. That's a 50s thing and a 60s thing, early 70s thing, is to be polite, because they're intruding on your life. Mm-hmm. It isn't like when when we were little kids and the aunt would call, or the uncle would call, or the pastor would call, or whatever. You be polite, but these people are intruding on your life, and you need to not let them intrude on your life. So that's really important.
And they do not have, the person that they're calling their best interest at
Nope.
heart. They want something
Yep.
from them.
Yep.
This is Senior Solutions with your Heiar Insurance team. This is a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not WBEV or Good Karma Brands. Different voices with us here today on Senior Solutions as we welcome Carrie Caston and Craig Caston to the airwaves and also to our streaming waves. We're also streaming live on Daily Dodge TV at dailydodge.com. So nice of you both to join us today for Senior Solutions. Carrie, you've been with the Heiar Insurance team for 5 years now. You have such a rich history in the insurance field, having spent 20 years, you said, at the hospital prior to joining
Correct.
the Heiar Insurance team. And Craig, you are kind of like that hero, like here I come to save the day when folks take those calls and let people remote into their computers that they shouldn't. We're focusing on cybersecurity here today on Senior Solutions. And when you talk about people, like from Google that won't call you, it's a very rare instance, never say never, but Medicare probably not going to call you. Social Security not going to call on your best interest every now and again.
Social Security will call when you apply for Social Security, and I'm not the really expert on this, Matt is, but there are times that they will give you a certain time that they will call you to finish up things or ask questions. So it's not that Social Security won't call. Medicare will never call you. But yes, so
But
Social
when
Security,
you know
but
when
you're
they
going to
call.
know the time and when they're doing it. because you can call into Social Security and ask questions.
Yeah, and along
know.
with you and other folks on the Heiar insurance team, you're happy to make those calls too.
Yes, and-
whatever the situation may be. When we talk about Medicare and that Medicare number, that is something people should not be giving out. When we think about people being scammed or being taken advantage of, you have to hold that so very close, just like your Social Security number.
Yes, and when we were at the hospital, that was the other thing. When you talk about Medicare cards and Medicare numbers, and let's say your Medicare supplement card, people would come. Let's say you're in the emergency room, and then they would need those cards. Well, so many people were told, "Oh, don't carry those in your wallet."
Oh my goodness!
But you do need them because of emergency and stuff. You do need them for, health insurance and et cetera. If you go to anything, medical facility, et cetera. So it's kind of a catch-22 when it
Yeah.
comes to if you should carry those cards or not carry those cards and stuff. But now the Medicare cards are no longer, they used to be your Social Security number, et cetera. Now they're just a variety. I don't know how they came up with what they use, but
That's good though, because
but,
in the early days, that Social Security's numbers were on everything. All the documents we had a Social Security number, all your doctor bills, all that stuff. Actually, they encouraged you to use for your password. They encouraged you to use your Social Security number.
Oh my goodness!
And then, this is back in the '80s, but it was like. Now I look at it, and the guy I used to work for, I had his Social Security number memorized. Even 10 years after I left, I was like, "Hey, your Social Security number is this." He goes,
Oh, my
"Because it's your
goodness.
password." Because they do that. But yeah, that's something you never ever give out. You never give out just Social Security. Even giving out the last four always makes me nervous. But,
Yeah.
But everybody asks for that, So.
Well, and what about passwords? Because we want to refresh those every now and again. We don't always want to use the same password.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned earlier about your mother's maiden name. There for
Sure.
a while, that was a common thing
Yep.
to be asked. What should we be doing with our passwords to keep our site safe and our information safe?
You should always change your password. I know it's a pain.
It really is because I forget, Craig
it's a lot.
Caston.
It's a lot of work.
And then I need an uppercase and a lowercase
Yeah.
and then a symbol and a number.
And I wish they'd get rid of that because the studies have shown that those weird number combinations don't really make it more secure.
No.
If you're using like Green Tree 25 or whatever.
Yeah.
I just made that up. It's not a real password. Just in case everybody's listening. It's just you make that up or something like that. That's just as secure because it's two random words that don't normally or don't fit together, like green circus, and you're like, what is those don't fit together? So the program that's doing the searching for trying to break this has the same trouble as it does if it's got an exclamation point or a pound sign. Especially if it knows it's got an exclamation pound sign, it already knows then some of the letters, so that doesn't help either.
No.
So what I always tell people, and I know this is like a cybersecurity no, but I always tell people the same thing is that you should change it whenever you can, and especially if you get one of those letters in the mail that we've been getting a lot of lately saying our system has been compromised, and even though nothing was stolen,
Oh, yeah. That's so concerning.
Target got hit a couple of years ago. Carrie had mentioned they said 3,000 people were. I said that's a lie. Those people lie like crazy. It's 30,000 or it's probably 300,000, and sure enough, it was 30,000. So 30,000 people were compromised. Well, then you should change your passwords. And what I recommend, and again, this is not a cybersecurity. By all means, the cybersecurity people out there are probably just cringing when I say it, but you should have a password book. But you shouldn't carry it with you, but you should have a password book at your home because if somebody breaks into your house, they need more stuff than your passwords. I mean, they're gonna steal your TVs and your jewelry and your stuff like that. There's something and maybe your passwords, but then you'll know the book's gone. You can change it.
I do write down my passwords because I have so
Yep.
many for so many different
Yep.
places, and it's hard to keep track
Yep.
of. But I keep that information in a very safe
Yeah,
place.
you bet. And give an address book so you can put it by alphabetically, what's my Yahoo, what's my AOL, what's my
AOL,
Google,
that's so cute.
I still have people that have AOL. I still have people that have Power Web email addresses.
Oh my
Believe it or not, and
goodness,
it's been
that's
gone
fantastic.
for 12 years already. But yeah, and then what I tell people is, excuse me, I got a little cough today.
It's okay. It's very dry down here.
And
in
a
the
lot-
Daily Dodge
all the
TV
pollen,
studios.
all that pollen flying around is killing me. But you put it in a book, and then when you put your password in, put the date next to it, because I'll help people and they'll say, oh, I've got my password right here, and there's 36 passwords because I've changed it 36 times. Well, I don't know which one to use, so we have to go through them all. And then if it's a good security system, they'll say, oh, you've tried 5 times, you're blocked out.
You must be a very patient person. How many years have you guys been married, Carrie?
39
We just
years.
celebrated 39 years.
39 years.
Congratulations. Happy
April 12th.
anniversary.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is
So-
wonderful. Is Craig one of the most patient people on the planet? Because when you think about helping people with
He's
computer issues,
very good with people, except me. He gets a little like, because I have to ask the question like 3 different ways. It's the same question, but 3
Yeah,
different
we
ways.
always say that. It's like, is
know.
the sky blue? Yeah, it's blue. Well, would it be blue, this blue or that blue? I don't, just that blue. Well, how do you
It's
know
all
it's
the
that blue?
details, Craig,
Yeah,
have to-
and I'm not in details. I go, and yeah, it's really tough sometimes because you go to people. I met a guy one time who asked, can you reset my password? And I said, sure. And so he said, well, will you log in, send it to another email address? What's the password? He said, how would I know that? I said, well, let's try this. Well, how would I know this password? So how would I get in if I don't know any? You can't remember any password. He couldn't even remember the password, like, so he could hack at it. So he was totally locked out of his accounts, but that was okay. That's another. I'll tell you this. That's another. I have these great, funny stories about people that probably don't do well at radio, but they're great.
But that's the big thing with the password part. Doing the password book, it does make sense because when you think about it, you have passwords for almost everything you do.
You really do.
Different places that you go to visit. Like
Apps on your
said,
Roku, like everything.
Betcha.
So you could easily have a password book and have at least 30, 40, 50 passwords in there. And like you said, if you're changing them every once in a while to update it, and like he said, the date and stuff. One of the other things on Craig's list here is don't unsubscribe.
Yep.
Okay, well, that I was the other day, a couple months ago, I was sitting there and all these different ones I get.
Yeah.
I maybe looked at something and then all
They're
of a sudden
keeping
now-
track. Like if you've
Yes.
not opened anything in 30 days, do you want to unsubscribe?
Sure,
Yeah, so now I was like, okay, I don't want to look at this anymore, and I don't want to. So I was going through my email, and I was unsubscribing. And I was doing really good. I was really proud of myself that I would found out where to unsubscribe, and all of a sudden he comes over and he looks at me and goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, He goes, "That's not a good thing."
Yeah.
And
not?
so, you're giving them your email.
Well, the way it works is if it's something like like Target or McKinstry's or somebody that sends you Randy from Professional Recovery. If you're on their list and they do that and you decide you don't want to do it anymore, that's okay because that's somebody somebody you actually did. But she gets hundreds of emails from random things that have nothing to do with what she was looking at, just random. So what happens is that by unsubscribing, you now validated your email. Because I can go on the internet, I could go on the dark web and buy, 7 million emails for $20. But they're all unverified. So I'll send out all of these emails saying, "Hey, sign up here so I can take all your money." I could sign up here so I could, you could give me $10,000 so I can give you $50,000. That scam, the Prince of Nigeria, I think was that. Remember that one? It's
I
from a
do.
long time ago.
Oh, my
That's a long time ago.
goodness.
They don't do that anymore, but because it's been hit popular culture now, people know that that's a scam. But it took a while for that to happen.
did.
But then I'll go through these emails and I might get maybe 200 out of a million that actually people unsubscribe to, or I got a response saying I'm out of the office today, call me back tomorrow. Well, now I have this 200 emails. Now I can go back on the dark web and I can sell those for like $10,000 because I know those people are there, and now they're targets. Now you're a target. So if it's somebody unsubscribe. But if it's someone you've never seen them before, you could easily right-click on depending on which email client you use, you can right-click on your email and say create a rule that says anything that says the word Viagra in it or says, lottery winner or something like that. Delete, automatically do, and just do that. And the people that are sending these don't know that you've even seen them. You might have deleted them, so they're not verified email addresses. So, but once you do, because information is king, that's why every place has an app. You think you're getting a really good deal by getting an app on your phone that gives you the 5 cents off on a cupcake or whatever, but they're tracking your information. They're taking your information. and they're doing that. And one of the things that's really been seriously security threat lately that a lot of people are talking about is if you have a phone and you have like a VPN on your phone, and a VPN is a virtual private network, it protects your information going up and down. A lot of banks won't let you use them because it's anonymous, and then that's a security risk. So you have to turn it off. But if you have a VPN and so you're doing all your work that way, that's great. Then they can't really the apps can't track you. The problem is if you have like an iPhone, well, the iPhone owns the phone and it owns the apps, it owns the whole infrastructure, so they don't have to follow the rules that say we're not tracking. They just send the stuff without under the backside. It's called telemetry, and your Windows machine does that. If you have a Microsoft Windows machine, it's literally every couple seconds it's sending information. Oh, they moved the mouse. Oh, they opened this window. No, they closed it right away. Then they're doing this. Now their computer's idle. Now they're looking at this, and it's all being sent back to Microsoft because they want to take all your information. They have billions, predictive. That's why when you start, people say, "Oh, my computer's listening to me." It probably is. It's true. It is. Your phone's listening to you, but when you go online and search for stuff, it'll give you, even when you're not searching for something specific, it'll say, "Oh, you're interested in this," because it's already predicted what you're going to look for. Because humans are predictable. I mean, it really are. So it takes a lot of work. But yeah, don't if it's something, the easiest way is delete it, or if you could find a way to create a mail rule that will delete it automatically, then do it. But don't ever unsubscribe from anything that you didn't ask specifically to be subscribed for, because that's just a really bad habit.
That's good to know. Thank you so much
Sure.
for being here with us today. Craig Caston and Carrie Caston with us here today for Senior Solutions, part of your Heiar Insurance team. Carrie has been a part of the Heiar Insurance team for about 5 years. And her husband, Craig, again, I just love that you guys are here today, husband and wife. Craig is quite the expert when it comes to cybersecurity. So we're focusing on that here today during the show. And certainly feel free to give us a call if you have questions, if you need some advice. Studio line is open for you at 885-4446, 885-4446. And you can also text at 887-9595. 887-9595 is the text line. In addition to being in the Slumberland Furniture Studios, we're also streaming live on Daily Dodge TV at dailydodge.com. When we think about some of those things that we really need to be more mindful of regarding our time spent online, this thought really had never crossed my mind until I saw that you had shared this here, that it's okay to turn your computer off. You don't need to leave it on all the time.
Correct. You can turn it off anytime you want when you're not using it. In the old days, they always told you we'll never turn it off and on because it's really bad for it. Well, those are old days. That was last year.
So
the old days,
year,
yeah, still
Craig
last year.
Caston.
But the one that comes up often, I often get calls on this, is people say, my computer says that I've got a virus. Okay, and it says don't turn off your computer, or it'll be no, turn off your computer. And the trick is, and people run into this all the time, and I have to explain it every time to somebody, is in the old days, computers were like light switches. So you turn them off, you push the button, and there's a click, and it's off. Well, everything's electronic now. So in order to shut it off, you have to actually hold that power button down for like 10 seconds. So people will push it, and they'll say, I did. And then the screen came right back. You put it to sleep. You didn't turn it off. So hold it down, and they'll say, okay, here, click. No. Okay, and then they'll say, well, is it really quiet? Yeah, it's not making any sound now. Okay, unplug. Okay, now turn it back on. It turns back on, it's fine. And then it'll say, do you want to restore your previous session? You say no, because you're going to just end up at the same place. And then they're fine. And everyone I've ever helped, I've never had someone have that pop up. And what that is those are scams based on, it's called link bait. And what it does is you get this thing where it says like the 5 worst movies by George Clooney, whatever, and you okay, I'm really interested in that. Or for me, it's sci-fi, Ninja knows it's sci-fi. And it's like, these are the best 5 sci-fi movies and the worst 5 sci-fi movies. And I'm like, I'm going to watch, I'm going to see what those are.
Yeah.
And you click on that, and the minute you click on that, now you've given tracking information that you're interested in sci-fi. But typically alongside, there's all these ads. So then what'll happen is these ads will have, they'll move. It's called a lazy load. And what that means is that the screen comes up and you start looking at it and you say, I'm going to click the next button. Well, the screen shifts because it's loading images. And it's doing that on purpose, because then when you think you're going to click on the button, and all of a sudden there's an image there and you click on it and it's some random thing that you want. And a lot of times those are scams, or do the computer thing. I saw a whole bunch on Facebook last night where they were saying, oh, this is, you should go here to help donate to the poor, and you click on it, it does all the weird stuff. Yep, and it was on a local Facebook thing, so it's like, so I reported, then it was gone. But that's the problem, is that people want you to, they want you to go in and click on these things to gather information, and that's the same with like the surveys that people do. Right, the surveys that people do, they're like, which one of the Power Rangers are you most like? and people do this, and I'm like, you gave them all this information. You just gave away all this personal information about you, and what did it do? We all got the Red Ranger, or I like the pink one. Amy Jo Johnson was my favorite.
I'm not familiar with the Power Rangers.
He's just laughing. Yeah, he's got it. I think it's doing it for his benefit. She was Amy Jo Johnson was the Pink Ranger. That's just really cute. I was young and the kids were young, so those things are like that. And then the other one where you see all the time where it's like, none of my friends ever read my stuff, so I'm going to post this, and anybody who likes this, blah blah blah.
Oh
blah,
yeah,
blah.
copy and paste. I never do that. Never
do that. And the advantage, what that does for you is nothing. It just wastes time. I think it's more of an ego thing. People say, "Watch, I can make 1 million people share this stupid thing that says, if you click on here and tell Facebook I no longer subscribe to you or whatever it is, then this will happen." And you're like, "Huh." No, that's it just wastes time. It messes up your feed because you've got all this stuff in there. Now you're propagating this thing that makes no sense. There's a great website out there called Snopes, snopes.com. And if you ever you're interested in computers, or interested in you hear this thing that something happened. Oh, this person died, and they're raising money for them. It's nobody you know, and they died tragically. You can look there. A lot of times you'll say, well, that guy died like 30 years ago, and they're just propagating that to get you to either click on it to get your information or send money, and you don't want to do that. So a lot of times people post this stuff on Facebook, and then I'll go to Snopes and reply with, no, this that person died 10 years ago, or that child recovered. They don't need surgery. You don't need the surgery that this thing says you need. And it's like, oh man, yeah. But it's really hard because you're a human being and you have feelings, and you see these things and you go, oh man, I feel so bad, but no.
Well, and when you look at it, there is so many ways we can be scammed now and stuff, just even from the phone calls we get to the, like you said, the internet and the Facebook and everything else.
Yeah, we're vulnerable,
Yep.
and really that's why conversations like this are so important, because it reminds us what we need to be mindful of and what dangers are out there. And when I had mentioned, clicking on that fish alert button, because I thought it was, a scam when I got that email earlier this week, and it turned out not to be. But those are also getting sophisticated too. And what do folks need to be mindful of, Craig, when it comes to phishing scams, and how are those different from some of the other things we've been talking about?
Sure. For people that don't know, phishing is spelled with a PH, because that's computer nerds are like that. There's a website called haveibeenowned.com, which tells you if your email address has been subjugated by other people. It's spelled PWNED or PW0NED, I forget, but it's computer. They're all nerds. But yeah, you need to, those are things you just have to be mindful of all the stuff that's going on, because when you look at, you get an email from somebody, I always run through a real quick set of like 3 tests, right? How's the grammar? If it's really bad, what was the joke the other day? The UGA has a thing. They have a free beer if you ever wanted to correct somebody on Facebook for their grammar. And I'm like, every time, please. But if you get an email from a bank, and it's going to have grammar errors or spelling errors, that's wrong, because banks don't do that. Every now and then somebody will do it, but especially if it's several, or the grammatical errors are killers. Because in a lot of foreign countries, the noun comes before the verb, and in our case, the verb comes, instead of a fast car, it's a car that's fast. So they'll say that like that, and you're like, well, who would say something like that? Yeah, somebody who doesn't speak English as a first language, and so you can do that, and you say, oh, and this is really bad. That's the first test. If the grammar's off. Number 2 is if you check the email address, and you don't have to click on it. All you have to do is hover up with your mouse, and at the bottom of the screen, it'll tell you what the email address it thinks it is, even though what you say isn't there. It'll show down below, and you're like, Okay, they don't match. That's number 2. That's a fail. Number 3 would be if it's from a bank or something like that, and it's like a Gmail address. Banks would never use a Gmail address. That would be suicide. I mean, you don't do that. So that's the third test. And then we were talking about it getting more sophisticated. The new thing that's happening is people are using non-English or I don't even know what it's called. There's a word for it. A non-English characters that are that they'll use something that's like all internet all characters, letters on the internet will have a hex code, like H83 is the letter C or whatever it is. They're come up with ones that look like a C, but it's not a C. So what's that?
Sorry.
So when you move over, then you move your mouse over. It looks, even though it looks like this is the same, but you have to be very, very careful of that. Did you want to say?
I feel like I should have been taking more notes.
More notes. Well, I just wanted to go over our hours again because I know Matt did that last week.
Yeah,
okay.
please do. For folks that don't know, the Heiar Insurance office is in Beaver Dam, part of the Heritage Mall. You're real close there by Joanne Fabrics.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so we are open from 9 to 5. We close from 12 to 1 for lunch. Okay. But for the summer now, Matt has decided that on Fridays. So on Fridays, we're open from 9 to 3. It's closed from lunch, etc. But just to be able for his staff and etc. to enjoy summer hours and go away for the weekend, etc. So Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5, closed from 12 to 1 for lunch. And then on Fridays from 9 to 3 and closed for lunch. And so those are our hours. And then anytime you have any questions, you can call us at 887-0580. We can help you with all your insurance needs, your investment needs. The other things we can help you with, people ask, explanation of benefits, EOBs, okay? Well, one of the things that some people don't realize, and especially if you're a senior, is Medicare only sends out their explanation of benefits every 3 months. Where let's say you have a Medicare supplement, like I have Physicians Mutual as my Medicare supplement and stuff. Well, I get those explanation of benefits, EOBs, right away. So then we will get calls like people are like, well, how come we got this, but we didn't get this? Mm-hmm. And it is because Medicare only sends them out every 3 months. So
good to know. Carrie Caston and her husband Craig with us today for Senior Solutions, part of the Heiar Insurance team. And that is really great that you guys are going to have new summer hours. So thank you very much for sharing that. Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5, and then Fridays, 9 to 3. Matt is learning today. Our friend Matt Heiar, who is usually here with us for Senior Solutions, is at a learning conference or something. We'll get all the details from Matt next week. And I miss him. I feel like I haven't seen him in a while. We were together on the Milwaukee baseball bus trip last Wednesday with your friend Rob Mielek from Mielek Law. So that was a lot of fun. And then I was gone on Friday. So we're going to have a lot to catch up with when Matt returns here next Friday. Anything else that either or one of you would like to share before we wrap up? We have just a couple of minutes left in the show.
The offices are remodeled at Heiar Insurance.
It's all finished. And Carrie, I heard you had that great compromise when regarding the pictures. So now we can switch out those pictures at the Heiar Insurance office. Yeah. I don't know if Matt is going to allow me and Sandy to be on the air together anymore because we made some big plans when we were together a few weeks ago. But that was the perfect compromise.
Yep. Well, Matt has been doing. He's got he's younger. So, and we always have to remember that piece of the puzzle. So he has great ideas. And his wife, Latera, also works there on Tuesdays.
Oh, okay.
And stuff. And she's got great ideas. She's been doing some office remodeling also. And whenever a new face comes in, they think of new things. Let's do a different filing system. Let's do this and that, which is great because otherwise you always do it the way you did it and stuff. And so like I said, the big thing that I love working at Heiar's is being able to help people. And, people call, and I always say when they call and ask a question, they're like, well, this is kind of a dumb question. No question is a dumb question. It is much better to know the correct answer. And, and if we don't know the answer, we will find out and let you know, because health insurance is big, and none of us are experts on it. And so if Matt and Sandy can help you with any of those things, anything from your billing to even your drug insurance. I've got 3 calls on drug insurance this morning. Going to the pharmacy and all of that stuff. Those are all things that Heiar Insurance can help you with.
It's really nice. Thank you again for being here today. We appreciate it very much. Carrie Caston, Craig Caston, I hope that you will come back to join us again here for Senior Solutions, with or without any formal notice.
Sure.
We don't need that. We roll with it well.
I'd love to. I could talk for hours about this stuff, and I'd really like to, there's no point in my life where I've ever said, I have this secret and I don't want to tell anybody because it's secret to me. I have this information. I want everyone to have it. And I'd love to share this stuff because, forewarned, what do they say? Forewarned is forearmed, but forearmed is an alien. No, sorry. Ninja laughed.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you again so much for being here. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.
Oh, for sure.
Well.
Big thanks to Carrie and Craig Caston joining us here today as part of your Heiar Insurance team for Senior Solutions. This has been a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not WBEV or Good Karma Brands.